About 2 years ago, I received this Dell Latitude D610 from a friend. It's a neat item from Dell's Latitude line that sold for a little over $2,000 back in 2005. How does it stack up today? This has possibly the best selection of ports I have ever seen on a laptop, rivaled only by one or two other machines of a similar vintage that I don't have anymore. Most of them are on the back: Ethernet, S-Video, 2 USB ports, a modem port, parallel, serial, VGA, and a barrel jack for power. On the left side, there are two 3.5mm ports for audio input and output, an infrared communicator port, and a Type 2 PC card slot. On the right side, there's another two USB ports and a 24x CD and DVD combo drive sitting in a hot swappable bay. The screen is a 1440 by 1050 panel that's decent. It looks fairly good for a 17-year-old display, though it doesn't get terribly bright. The keyboard is perhaps a little softened with age, but otherwise feels quite nice. There are dedicated buttons for power and volume control, and 3 status lights for power, disk access, and charging, respectively, visible whether the laptop is open or closed. The touchpad is acceptable. It's almost comically small by modern standards, with no multi-touch whatsoever. Almost every other touchpad I've ever used has been better, but given that this machine is 17 years old, I'll cut it some slack. There are dedicated buttons for left and right click, and a rather worn track point with 2 more buttons. This machine is about 1.2 inches thick, which, believe it or not, was considered thin and light in 2005. Compared to my daily driver System 76 Pangolin, it's a fair bit heavier and possibly twice as thick. It makes up for its relative heft by being very solidly built, which is probably why it's lasted this long, with the only damage being a bit of deformed plastic near the side USB ports, where someone probably dropped it. On the inside, this particular laptop has 2 GB of RAM, a 60GB hard disk, and a single-core Intel Pentium M processor running at 1.86 GHz. As far as graphics, there's an ATI Mobility Radeon X300 with 64 MB of RAM. This gets the job done, but isn't exceptionally fast by today's standards, though it was fairly high-end in 2005. The battery appears to have been replaced nearly a decade after this machine was originally purchased. The warranty sticker says 2015, and the battery has no Dell branding whatsoever. I get 1 to 2 hours of use out of a full charge, which is somewhere around half of what it would have gotten new. The machine came with Windows 7. I reinstalled it to get rid of any additional software that might have been slowing down the OS, and it performed alright, but wasn't great. I tinkered with Linux distributions like Arch Linux 32 and a custom-compiled Linux kernel running a fork of a fairly esoteric piece of software called LuPi 2. I ended up going with Windows XP Service Pack 3 because it seemed like the best fit for a machine from 2005. With the drivers installed, this laptop can connect to modern WPA2 wireless networks. For a browser, I went with MyPal, a fork of Firefox 68 that's still maintained for this old version of Windows. It performs acceptably and can even play back YouTube. Mostly. DVD playback works quite well in VLC, though the speakers leave something to be desired.
Do you think it wise to trust Hagrid with something as important as this?
Professor, I would trust Hagrid with my life.
And what better way to really showcase what this old machine is capable of than to scale down to 640 by 480 and play a game that was already a decade old at the time of this laptop's release? This old Latitude has no trouble at all with 1995's Doom, even using the much newer PR Boom Plus engine version 2.5.0.1. "1999's Quake 3 Arena runs flawlessly at this laptop's native resolution. Grand Theft Auto 3 performs very well at 1280 by 1024, maintaining more or less 60 frames per second. By contrast, Test Drive Unlimited Gold is positively a slideshow. It's from 2006, the year after this laptop was released, and at 640 by 480 with all of the display settings set as low as I could, it manages somewhere around 5 frames per second. You can hear the pitch of the engine sounds increasing in discrete steps with each frame. In terms of non-gaming use, this laptop is alright. The full-size keyboard is quite excellent and has decent key travel. In fact, I wrote the script for this video on it. Some of the keys are a little bit softer than others, though that's almost certainly due to age. A CNET review I found from 2005 praises its firm keyboard. All in all, this is quite a solid machine. It can almost manage modern internet-connected tasks and is reasonably nice to use. That's all I've got for now. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button and clicked the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos.